It started out a bad hair day and went downhill from there, Marilee Jennings said aloud as her Honda crossed the border into Montana. She took a last drag on her cigarette and crushed out the stub amid a dozen others in the ashtray. The line was a joke she and Lucy had shared time and again during their friendship. Whenever either of them began a conversation with that line, it meant the other was to provide the Miller Lite, the pizza, and the shoulder to cry on. Usually they ended up laughing. Always they ended up commiserating. They had met in a stress management course for court reporters. After 2 hours of being counseled not to attempt to resolve stress with cigarettes, liquor, and shop talk, they walked out of the meeting room, and Lucy turned to her with a wry smile and a pack of Salem Light 100s in her hand and said, "So, you want to go get a beer?" The bond had been instant and strong. Not a cloying friendship, but a relationship based on common ground and a sense of humor. They both worked on their own, hustling for government contracts and working for a string of attorneys, taking depositions and doing the usual grunt work of transcripts and subpoenas, and fending off amorous advances of legal beagles in heat. They both saw the kinds of ugliness people could resort to in labor management disputes, and took down in the secret code of their profession first-person accounts of everything from the absurdities of divorce battles to the atrocities of murder. They shared the common problems of their profession, the stress of a job that demanded perfection, the headaches of dealing with arrogant attorneys who wanted everything but the bill in 24 hours, then went for months without bothering to pay them. And yet, in many ways, they were as different as night and day. Lucy liked the glamour attached to the people she worked for. She thrived on intrigue and dyed her hair a different shade of blonde every 6 months because sameness bored her. She looked at the world with the narrow eyes of an amused cynic. Her insights were as sharp as a stiletto, and so was her tongue. She was ambitious and ruthless and wry. She adored the limelight and coveted the lush life. Mary still harbored the weary hope that people were essentially good, even though she had seen that many were not. Appearances seldom impressed her because she had grown up in a neighborhood where the phrase, "all style and no substance," was the battle cry of most of the women as they ran to their BMWs, charge cards in hand, to race to the latest sale at Nordstrom's. She had no aspirations to fame or fortune, and dreamed mostly of a quiet place where she could fit in unnoticed. Their differences had only served to balance their relationship. They had shared a lot in those late-night beer and bullshit sessions. Then Lucy had come into some money, chucked her job, and moved to Montana, and while the bond between them hadn't broken, it had been stretched awfully thin. The intervening year had been a long one. Mary had missed her friend. Neither of them was good about writing letters, and time slipped by between phone calls. But she knew the friendship would still be there. Lucy would welcome her with that same kind of casual amusement she turned on every other aspect of her life. All Mary would have to do would be to step out of her car, shrug her shoulders, and say, "It started out as a bad hair day and went downhill from there." Her eyes darted to the rearview mirror, betraying her as the tide of depression tried to rise again inside her. She frowned at the state of her wild, streaky blonde mane. Who was she kidding? Her whole life had been a series of bad hair days. While her 2 sisters had inherited their mother's champagne and satin locks, Mary had been given a tangle of rumpled raw silk with dark roots that turned nearly platinum at the ends. It was an unmanageable mess, and she wore it sheared off just above her shoulders in a bob that somehow never lived up to the description of classic or stylish. Long ago she had decided her hair was a metaphor for her life. She was wilder than she ought to be. She didn't match the rest of her family. She never quite lived up to expectations. "It doesn't matter, Marilee," she declared, leaning over to shove a cassette into the tape deck and crank the volume. "You're in Montana now." Sacramento was just a dot on the map behind her. The life she had led there was in the past. She was officially on hiatus with no plans, no prospects, no thoughts for the future beyond spending a week or 3 with her old friend. A vacation to clear the mind and